You're watching EDFL Web TV from the Sporting Globe, 690 Mount Alexander Road in Moonee Ponds. Adam, we're doing our half-season report card and also looking ahead to round 9 of EDFL action. And in Division 1, just the 3 games, of course, after the match that was played on Queen's Birthday weekend. But geez, we've got some good ones, and we start with Tullamarine taking on Glenroy. I think Tullamarine, the journey and the mission is clear from here. Just keep winning, try and seal up a top 2 berth and knock off West Coburg and all the other opponents in the finals. But Glenroy, they are a much more interesting case because they are still very much paying for that slow start to the season, and particularly the loss to Craigieburn.
Yeah, if they lose this weekend, they're in a bit of trouble, Taya. They only play 4 more home games for the rest of the year now, Glenroy. They've had a lot of games at Saul Reserve recently, and they only go back there 4 more times. So they've got to start winning on the road, and it's probably got to start this weekend at Leo Deneen. Tullamarine are travelling along very, very nicely at the moment, and I know Ash Manning and the boys will be happy about the fact that West Coburg perhaps is getting a lot of the attention in Essendon Ford Division 1. So a really interesting prospect this game. I still think Tulla gets up, but Glenroy is going to at least want to push them all the way in that one.
Now, speaking of West Coburg, a debate we often have is how strong the Premier team will be when they come up to the next division. I'm pretty much convinced that if West Coburg does head up at the end of this year, they'll be set and they'll be ready for Premier Division, and they won't be an immediate hot favourite to come back down. They might still be the underdog in the division, but I wouldn't say that they'd be a formality and backs to the wall to survive in Premier. But what are your thoughts on that? And is it a bit too early to start anointing them as the right team to come up, given that Tullamarine were only 1 point off them when they met head-to-head?
They're best placed at the moment, West Coburg. They've obviously got quite a bit of depth down there, and they're one of those clubs that's a real big feeder club for Coburg in the VFL. So, yeah, and you're right, Teo. They probably are the best team, best suited for Premier Division at the moment, but there's obviously a really long way to play out, and even if they do manage to get up and win at Windsor Hill later on this year, there's a whole summer to go before obviously they have a crack. So for mine, yeah, they probably are the best suited team for Premier Division right now, but they've still got a lot on their plate at the moment, and especially those boys in red and blue.
Now, Hillside, their opponents this weekend, I really see them as sort of the no man's land team in any division. You look through the 3 leagues and you think who's got something to play for. Hillside has a top 4 spot to play for. They're probably looking over their shoulder just at the relegation situation and thinking they might already have enough wins in the bank. So the real question is, where do they go from here? Because they have got this tough run coming up where they've got to play the top teams. And then once they get through that, unless they can pick up an upset somewhere, they might be stuck in between the top 4 and in between relegation, which is something I didn't think we'd be saying about Division 1, because it seems as though it's high stakes every week in this competition, and yet Hillside just seem to be stuck bang in the middle. So which way are they going to go?
Look, their final couple of games, though, that draw is very kind to Hillside, so for that reason I do think they do stay up. Yeah, you're right, they really are in the middle of the road. They're sort of in no man's land at the moment, Hillside. I mean, I was really impressed with them at the start of the year, but they obviously dropped off, and when you don't have your Jackson Volpatos and Luke Pulitanos in the side with their TAC Cup duties, they look like a vastly different outfit, Hillside.
Well, to be fair, we were singing their praises because they won those games early in the season, so they shouldn't take it as a criticism that we're saying that they're in no man's land. It's more just that, can they kick again? Can they go back into the top 4 race and make us pay attention? Or now that they're safe in the division, or at least seemingly safe, do they just try and pick off the wins that they need to win to ensure that they stay up, and maybe it's going to take a mind-blowing upset or something outrageous for them to make the top 4?
I don't think so, because much like Premier Division at the moment, the top 4 in Essendon Ford Division 1, you've probably got your top 3 that's probably already locked in. That 4th spot is just about a raffle, and like as we said, there's such a logjam between 4th and probably 8th or 9th at the moment in that division that's anyone's a chance. So Hillside's definitely up there. What they have done, Taylor, they've handled the jump extremely well. Obviously, they did lose quite a few players last year. Not many people at all had them surviving in Division 1 this year, and they've handled it quite brilliantly, in fact, Hillside. So they've gone extremely well. They're definitely going to survive, and they'll be pushing for top 4, but I do want to see a bit more against those top teams when they do come up against them.
Now, Craigieburn, they're in the hot seat, and the burning question is, where is their next win coming from? They're playing Taylors Lakes this weekend. It is at DS Aitken, but I think Taylors Lakes they have now perhaps established themselves as the third best team in the division. You and I were speculating last week that it might be Glenroy, and then Glenroy have had a few questionable performances after that winning streak to kickstart their season. So I think Taylors Lakes, they're sort of the middle marker of the division. If you beat Taylors Lakes, you're a good team. If you can't beat Taylors Lakes, you're not such a good team. And Taylors Lakes themselves, right now, I think they're on course to finish third. What are your thoughts on that? And also, where is Craigieburns' next win coming from, or are they perhaps condemned to the drop and to go down again second time in 3 years?
Taylors Lakes, they're the hardest team to tip at the moment, these Taylors Lakes games. I mean, they can go any way sometimes. You know, I tip them to win, a game I expect them to win, and they end up faltering in those games. But then every now and then they can really... I can't see them pushing West Coburg and Tullamarine in terms of getting a win over those sides based on current form, but they can certainly push them on their day. As far as Craigieburns concerned, I reckon they do have their second win of the season coming up. I don't think it'll be this weekend against Taylors Lakes, but Hadfield, West Meadows after that. I mean, Hadfield, they can be tricky. Obviously good against Oak Park, but they were still pushed by Oak Park at the same time. So Hadfield can be beaten. Obviously West Meadows, will they tail off? A lot of people will say they perhaps might. Craigieburn and local rivals as well, obviously West Meadows and Craigieburn. So particularly that West Meadows game, but perhaps even the Hadfield game before that, within the next couple of weeks, I reckon Craigieburn wins one of them.
Well, on the subject of West Meadows, they're another team that's been incredibly hard to get a read on this year. They lost to Taylors Lakes the first time around. They beat Oak Park in a close bit of a grind. And, of course, they spanked Glenroy on Anzac Day. And it's those second head-to-heads this time around which will really determine whether they're in the top four or not. If they can beat Taylors Lakes, if they can beat Oak Park, if they can beat Glenroy, then they will make the finals. It's as simple as that. But the real question is, can they do it? And it's still up and down from the Tigers, and I'm really actually struggling to get a read on their performances. I'm looking forward to sending the cameras out to one of their games or taking the van out to one of their games just so we can see them in the flesh and maybe make a few decisions on what's in front of our eyes.
It's a fluctuating form of the likes of West Meadows, which is what makes Essendon Ford Division 1 such a fascinating competition of football. Look, it's very tough to make a call at the moment on who's going to fill that fourth spot. It's currently occupied by West Meadows, but I haven't seen enough to be convinced that they're the ones that are going to make finals, and even if they do make finals, I don't think they're going to be good enough to be pushing the top three at the moment. So the fact that it is so tight and such an open race, that obviously keeps them in the hunt. And much like a couple other teams at the moment, I want to see a bit more against the contenders and the teams around them to be convinced that they are going to be good enough to make finals.
And now we move on to Division 2. Adam, we've spoken a lot about this division in recent weeks, and there seems to be a clear-cut divide at the moment, but the one big battle is between three teams. Jacana, currently having played a game extra, sitting fourth. Keilor Park and Moonee Valley, their opponents this weekend. Moonee Valley very good against East Keilor, with a number of their good players coming back into the side, and by the same measure, Keilor Park pushing Roxburgh Park probably as close as they've been in any game this season. It actually makes for a very compelling match. Now, you've been on the Keilor Park bandwagon, I've been on the Moonee Valley bandwagon. Which way is this one going to go? And more importantly, is this going to decide who ends up finishing fourth?
Yeah, this is an absolutely crucial game. It's stiff perhaps not to be the EDFL match of the day, Teo, but yeah, look, I've got some gentle ribbing from some people within EDFL lands about me being on the Keilor Park bandwagon, particularly early in the season. But look, they've got some wins coming up, that is for sure. This game's obviously absolutely crucial, but in the second half of the year, they can almost be penciled in for 4 wins. Obviously, Burnside Heights and East Sunbury, but they've still got 2 games coming up against Jacana as well. And the first time they did meet the Jags early this season, they were fairly comfortable winners. I think it was about 7 goals to margin in that game. So Keilor Park, it's right there for the taking at the moment, that 4th spot in this division. And obviously Moonee Valley is going to be the main contender. So this game is absolutely crucial. It's almost an elimination final in early June, mid-June. So it's going to be a cracking game at Keilor Park. But even if they don't get up, obviously the opportunity is still there. They've got some winnable games in the run home. So Moonee Valley, it's going to be a massive clash at Keilor Park. But if I'm going to have a tip, I'm just going to say Moonee Valley based on current form.
Burnside Heights are taking on Roxburgh Park. We'll save the Roxburgh Park questions because we know they're finals bound. It's going to be all about how they stand up in September, but right now they're in a 2-week run where they play against the two new boys, Burnside Heights and East Sundry, and we expect 2 wins there. East Keilor against Coburg Districts. A week ago on Web TV, Adam, I asked you if Coburg Districts already were to be talked about as premiership contenders, and you said yes. Any second thoughts on that? Do they need to win this one to return to the discussion, or do you still think that they're going to be there in the finals and maybe even if they lose the head-to-heads during the home and away season, they might be able to knock off a Roxburgh Park or an East Keilor come September?
To be honest, I can't see a whole lot in this game in terms of importance because you've got two clubs that are basically locked into the top 4. Roxburgh Park,
the double chance is pretty important because if you get the week off in September, you don't have to play the preliminary final, and we expect the prelim final to be a pretty hard-fought contest.
Yeah, you're right, and obviously, but if Roxburgh Park hold their form, they're going to finish on top, and yeah, this is a spot that could shape second. This is a game that could shape second spot on the ladder. East Keilor should win at home. Obviously, they bounce back after the loss to Roxburgh Park, and Coburg Districts there and thereabouts, but not entirely sure these two clubs, Taylor, will show their full hands on Saturday because they probably will meet later in the season when it's crunch time in the finals. And yeah, that's obviously will be a completely different picture by the time that game comes around. So I don't know. No club really loses a whole lot if they drop this game of football. So I'm not entirely sure we can read too much into what happens this weekend in this game. That's
it for the mid-season report cards. You're watching EDFL Web TV from the Sporting Globe, 690 Mount Alexander Road in Moonee Ponds. So that's it for EDFL Web TV this week. Make sure you check out our social media networks. All the links are appearing on your screen, whether it's the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram. And don't forget, on the YouTube channel, there is the We Like option. It's a little playlist I've put together where I've found all the videos that other people have uploaded of EDFL footage to the web. There's grand finals from the 1990s, there's clubs singing the song, there are segments from the local footy show who are also sponsored by our great sponsors, Strathmore Community Bank. So make sure you check out the We Like playlist, and if you do have a nomination that you'd like to add to that playlist, go and post it on the Facebook page or tweet at us at EDFL Footy. Adam, a big question about the game this weekend. Of course, we've already talked a lot about Northern Saints versus Essendon Duda Stars, so how are the Socceroos going to go against Chile? And of course, don't forget, here at the Sporting Globe, you can see the Socceroos game against Chile opening up June 14th at 8 a.m, and then the day after, it is Italy versus England, 8 a.m, for that match as well, right here at the Sporting Globe.
So if you get a phone call at about 11:30 on Saturday morning because the Socceroos have somehow got up and got the win, then I apologise in advance because I might be out here in the Sporting Globe perhaps celebrating that. So yeah, can't wait for that day. Obviously, it's just around the corner of the World Cup. But yeah, this game on Saturday is going to be massive as well, obviously, for obvious reasons. Essendon Duda Stars and the Northern Saints, can't wait for that one. Every single time the Northern Saints play, they put on a good show, and they have for us every time we've done a broadcast as well. So can't wait to see the Northern Saints show roll on again this weekend.
And don't forget to support our sponsor right here at the Sporting Globe, whether it's the NBA Finals or the World Cup. Get down here to 690 Mount Alexander Road in Moonee Ponds. He's Adem Saricaoglu. I'm Teo Pellizzeri. That's it for this weekend. Enjoy your footy and make sure you join us from 1 p.m. on Northwest FM 98.9 and streaming on the EDFL team app for the Match of the Day broadcast. For now, it's goodbye.